the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
We got to earn the right to be ranked. As we finish this year, that'll help us with rankings moving forward. I'm telling you, I don't care about preseason rankings. I don't care about rankings in January. I don't care about rankings now. It helps us in recruiting to be ranked. I've said this before because you're on the highlights every night. But we're not there yet. I would rather be ranked than not, but I don't pay attention.
Welcome to Sports Talk, everyone, on this Monday night. Good to have you with us, Phil Kornbluth and the Professor Tom Hayes. Kevin McCrary is off tonight. USC basketball coach Frank Martin coming off the win on Saturday over Florida, talking with the media today in Columbia. We'll let you hear from him as the Gamecocks picked up a much-needed, exciting overtime win over the Florida Gators and very much enhanced their postseason likelihood with that win. The Gamecocks by Joe Lunardi right now with number 7 seed is what he has in his bracket, playing in Raleigh against Colorado. So on paper, you say, hey, that looks pretty good for South Carolina, a chance to play in the tournament and a chance to play a team they can beat. And then, of course, in round 2, the winner of that game would meet North Carolina in Raleigh. So you take it one game at a time if you get there, and certainly the Gamecocks would just revel in the fact that they've made the tournament, if indeed they can. And they're getting closer and closer by the game with a home game against Tennessee coming up Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. Another very winnable home game, especially if Tennessee is without Kevin Punter, who killed the Gamecocks in Knoxville, but he's dealing with a stress fracture. And Rick Barnes says basically day-to-day and wouldn't commit one way or another to him playing against the Gamecocks.
Well, the interesting thing is we talked about it before that it's some solid teams around the country, but no team that stands out that you say, well, that's the team that's going to win the national title. In a microcosm, that's the SEC. If you don't show up, no matter how well you're playing, any team can beat you. The flavor of the week was Alabama. Then they waltzed into Coleman Coliseum, and there's Mississippi State. Well, they should beat them. No, they get ambushed. LSU just plainly does not show up in Knoxville. And after the athletic director, have you ever seen the athletic director do that to his own team? Just threw him under the bus before the start of the game? When Joe Oliva says, I've been on the basketball committee for a lot of years now, and maybe he was a little bit too frank, but we're what, 81, 80 in the RPI? We've never had a team that low, be in the tournament. So we're tough. We're in a tough spot. But he said that before the game. I'm hoping the players didn't see that and decide to lay down, but I've never seen he throws a team under a bus quite like that.
I went to Raleigh for Clemson. NC State Tigers are in a world of hurt as far as NCAA tournament is concerned. We'll talk about that coming up. But their football team gets another gem out of the state of Georgia today, a commitment for the Tigers. We'll tell you about that and more coming up. Lee Anthony Williams is the newest commitment for Clemson, cornerback out of Roswell, Georgia. That Roswell, Georgia high school team is loaded with players, and Clemson is digging in deeply. They've got Trey Lamar as a freshman coming in from that program. Now they get Lee Anthony Williams, and there are others on that team being heavily recruited. Williams is a cornerback, heavily recruited. Clemson moved to the front with him when he went there for junior day back in January, and the Tigers went on from there to win him out over Alabama and Georgia, Tennessee, Ole Miss. Also, South Carolina had been one of his offers as well, but did not make it to his short list. And he made his announcement today on a video with Rivals.com, and that seems to be the preferred form of announcement now by a lot of these rated players by the websites. That's the new battle going on amongst the recruiting websites. First, it was getting them to our respective summer camps so we could anoint you with a particular star rating, and of course you pay for that. Next was getting you to our All-American game where we could further exploit you. And now the battle is who can get the player to agree to record this video in advance of making his announcement, and then, of course, holding it for the particular website to release it to the world. And, each player tries to outcool the next one in his form and his style. But anyway, that's just the way of the recruiting world. Lee Anthony, the important news for Clemson is that they get a quality cornerback, 8th commitment for the class, and the Tigers are looking at taking perhaps 3 corners in this class, and this would be one. Lee Anthony Williams. It's actually Lee Anthony Williams Jr., if you want to be exact about it, 6 feet, 180. So another good pickup for Clemson recruiting, and the Tigers, they just line them up and watch them fall in place. Probably going to get T. Higgins, the wide receiver out of Tennessee. Probably going to get J.J. Robinson, the wide receiver out of Florida. Coming up over the next, who knows, it could be a week, it could be several weeks. These two guys have narrowed their list down pretty much, and Clemson seems to be strongly in place with each of them. The Tigers do a great job when they get you on their campus, especially if you are a skill position player with what they're doing with their offense and with the not just Deshaun Watson, but the string of quarterbacks that they have lined up with Zarek Cooper, with Bryant waiting in the wings, with the 2 they have committed for the 2017 class. Hunter Johnson in particular is a guy that, receivers, they see these quarterbacks and they say, I want to go play with these guys. I want to catch the ball from these guys. So it's very attractive for Clemson right now, and there's no let-up in sight from Clemson's standpoint in terms of acting major talents.
Here's where the importance of Dabo Swinney's personality comes in, because I've seen this scenario happen at another place, and it didn't work in the long run. And that's because the players got a feeling that the uniforms made them win. And I'm talking about Texas. When they rolled in recruiting class after recruiting class, great quarterbacks, and then suddenly something went wrong. And they figured it out too late that these guys think the shirts do it and they don't have to work as hard. Well, that's not going to happen at Clemson. Dabo Swinney is going to, keep the pedal to the metal to say, look, you have to earn to wear that paw on the helmet, and you have to. The other key point is the psychology of the young quarterbacks. They keep saying that Clemson has good quarterbacks, but they have to play their game. If you get the quarterbacks lined up and whoever succeeds, Deshaun Watson would like to play like him, there's only one Deshaun Watson. So Dabo mentally is going to tell the quarterbacks, you play your game. This is what you're good at. This is what we want you to do it. Because if you try to play like number 4, that ain't going to happen.
Here's the look at Clemson's 2017 recruiting class at this point. Linebacker Balin Spector out of Calhoun, Georgia. Offensive lineman Noah DeHaan from Rochester, New York, 6'7", 317. Quarterbacks Hunter Johnson, Brownsburg, Indiana. Chase Bryce, Loganville, Georgia. Offensive lineman Matt Bockhurst, Cincinnati, 6'5", 300. Offensive lineman Blake Vinson, 6'5", 285, Ocala, Florida. Receiver Amari Rogers from Knoxville, 5'10", 180. And defensive back Lee Anthony Williams from Roswell, Georgia, 6 feet, 180. If you're Kirby Smart, if you are if you are the Tennessee staff, I mean, you're seeing Clemson come right in your backyard and pull gems right out from under your nose. I mean, Amari Rogers is right there from Knoxville. His father, he's a legacy player at UT. Dad is T. Martin. Tennessee doesn't recruit very good quarterbacks, and it's not like they don't throw it around as well. But he went to Clemson, found the comfort level and the love from the coaches that apparently he was seeking, and decided not to just, go out his back door and go to school, but to come down the mountain and go up the mountain a little bit, come down the mountain and go up the hill to Clemson. So it's a great looking class thus far for Clemson. And of course, they'll be adding more to it as we move forward. Complete recruiting report coming up for you a little bit later on. Mentioned that I went to Raleigh on Saturday. K-Mac covered the Gamecocks and the Gators. And I went to Raleigh to cover the Tigers, and I'll be up at Georgia Tech tomorrow night because that's what we do here on Sports Talk. We just don't sit on our asses and talk sports. We were out there covering the events, talking with the coaches, meeting with the players, and bringing it to you firsthand, not secondhand. Clemson had a golden opportunity in a game that we thought that they should win on the road against what appeared to be an inferior ACC team record-wise, but my goodness, you look at NC State up close, and you wonder, how is this team 500 overall and with just, 4 ACC wins? I mean, they are big, and they've got shooters. I was talking to some folks there I know around NC State afterwards, and it's just been one of those seasons for them where they just haven't been able to piece it together. That might have been one of their better all-around games. They killed Clemson on the backboards, just flat annihilated them.
Was the guy Boo?
Yeah,
he's a thick guy.
He had 16 rebounds. Many on the offensive glass. And Brad Brownell, in his post-game comments, admitted that we just don't have the size and strength to keep those guys off the boards. And then, of course, they get the freshman Rowan had a tremendous outside shooting game. In this, they won despite the fact that the ACC's leading scorer, Cat Barber, made 1 basket.
Right.
They did a really nice job containing him, but as Brownell said, when you focus on him, you tend to have some openings elsewhere. But Rowan was hitting really deep shots. I mean, he was hitting, way downtown shots. And so anyways, great win for NC State. My first time at that arena, beautiful arena. And, hopefully for South Carolina, they make the tournament, hope to go to Raleigh, which would be great for them because a lot of fans will be able to go. And, it's not a long ride to Raleigh from South Carolina, and it's a beautiful arena. Just
so you don't get
classy arena.
So you don't get the feeling that they dropped the court in the middle of a hockey rink. It doesn't give you that. I mean,
you see the glass. You see the protective glass in certain areas around the lower seating. It's just one of those big arenas that just seems to keep going up. And at the very top, it's got the suites, but the lighting is very, very good. It's got the message ribbon that runs around the entire circumference of the mid-level.
It's a pro arena.
It's a pro arena. And it's a pro. That's the best way to put it. It's a pro arena. They didn't cut any corners with it, They put all the little niceties in there, wide portals and walking areas all the way around the arena. And it's very, very nice. So, let's hope it works out for South Carolina. First of all, they make it. And number 2, they put them in Raleigh to show them a little love there. We'll be right back. Baseball coming up. Chad Holbrook at the bottom of the hour. got several notes to pass along to you tonight. Let's begin with the announcement of the new selections for the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. Troy Brown, 3-time Super Bowl winner with the Patriots out of Barnwell. Clemson's Greg Buckner. Buckner jams. Remember that call by Jim Phillips? ACC tournament against North Carolina. Spent 11 seasons in the NBA. Former USC basketball standouts Art Wisnant and B.J. Mackey and Martha Parker Hester. Did I say Martha? Martha Parker Hester. Dr. Martha Parker Hester. They're going in along with Citadel baseball great Richard Wieters and longtime coach Buddy Sasser, football coach, of course, and former Clemson and Major League pitcher Flint Rem, who go in posthumously. May 16th is the date for the induction, Columbia Metropolitan Convention Center. Table of 8. $600 for the tickets. They're accepting the sponsorships as well at the Hall of Fame office in Columbia, 803-779-0905. That's just part of the evening. There'll be other awards handed out as well. So congratulations to the group. My goodness, we're getting so old. B.J. Mackey is going into the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. Martha Parker. I can remember, of course, covering both of those. And, of course, Greg Buckner, who was the steal by Rick Barnes. When Rick Barnes left Providence, he had Buckner committed to Providence. He goes to Clemson, and Buckner comes with him and becomes a great, great player. And, of course, Troy Brown, terrific football career. Your thoughts on USC Saturday? You watched the Gamecocks, I guess, from the comforts of your home.
Yes.
Watched the Gamecocks play great, play awful, and then play well enough to win.
Yeah, and you know, afterwards, you know, Frank Martin admitted that, you know, that was one of those series where, you know, a team makes you lose twice. He said Kentucky took their spirit. They just took it away from them, and they came to Missouri with nothing. So I was not surprised he shuffled the lineup. I think he needed those.
Remember on Friday night, he told us that it was, well, you weren't here Friday night. Friday night, he said there would be some changes in the lineup. Yeah.
I kind of figured he would go with the upperclassmen. I just had that feeling. You almost get the feeling that Dozier and Silva are hitting that high school wall where, you know, they're usually either in the playoffs or the season is over.
Yeah.
So he wanted to get some fresh troops in there. And the key thing, probably the MVPs, I guess, from a psychological standpoint, would be Hitchavikus's and Kaijanus's mothers being in the stands, because suddenly their sons woke up a different team early when they're contributing, giving you inside presence, because that opened things up. But key to this game was Carrera. He would not let them lose. 20 points, 15 rebounds, I think 3 assists, 3 blocks. He was just tremendous.
I think both he and Blossom Game in their respective leagues have to be first team all league, especially with the success of the Gamecocks and what Blossom Game is doing now game after game for the Tigers. Chad Holbrook coming up. Welcome back in Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on this Monday night. Phil Kornblut, the professor, Tom Hayes, Barry Larkin Belton behind the bulletproof glass once again. Got a lot coming your way. Basketball talk later on. We'll hear from Frank Martin, Brad Brownell, and also coming up in just a moment, USC baseball coach Chad Holbrook will join us here on the program as the Gamecocks open their season at home against Albany in fine fashion with 3 straight wins, allowed just 4 runs over the weekend, hit the baseball very well, and so a good start for the Gamecocks playing their games at Founders Park in Columbia in front of big crowds once again as Coach Holbrook now joins us for the first time in the regular season. And congratulations. I know that if you could have drawn it up, that's the way you would draw a 3-0 start.
Yeah, it was a good start for us, and it was good to get out there and play somebody else. We've been at it a long time, I guess, since the last weekend in August, and see our guys react to some game atmosphere against another team. That was good to see, and learned a little bit about our team, and some of our players performed at a high level, and it's good to get some newcomers out there. So all in all, I couldn't ask for more, and we won 3 games. We played pretty clean baseball and got contributions from a number of different people.
Yeah, you played error-free baseball in every inning except one.
Yeah, and we made those 2 errors in a span of about 45 seconds apart. It was happened really quick, but yeah, we did for the most part. You take that 1 inning out, we really picked it up. Our infielders showed that they're pretty gifted defensive players and ran some balls down the outfield. A couple of our outfielders had T.J. Hopkins had 2 assists from the outfield. I thought our catchers were terrific all weekend long, and all in all, I couldn't ask for more. And we got to continue to improve. We certainly got the competition will get stiffer real soon, and just got to continue to practice, get better, and continue to improve as a team. And I like our team. I like the characteristics that we have, but we got to continue to improve and play well.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up next. It sounds to me from what you've been saying leading into the season and then what you were saying over the weekend, you like the makeup of this team. You like the chemistry of this team. You like this team in the locker room and in the dugout.
Yes, and sometimes coaches can get vibes, and it's easy to get a good vibe early in the season when you've only played a few games and you hadn't had to handle any adversity yet. But it's been a group that's really dotted every I and crossed every T, I guess, in their preparation, and a lot of it was things that we did as a team, as far as watching them and observing practice, to what our strength staff put them through, and they've tackled everything that we've thrown at them, and they hadn't cut any corners, and they've done well in the classroom, and just a different vibe, I think, in regards to how these kids have handled themselves.
Mm-hmm. What'd you think of the pitching? I think it was 29 strikeouts by your staff. And I'm just trying to remember the number of walks that you had. I mentioned it yesterday. Very few, not a large number.
Yeah.
Were you pleased with the way everybody who you ran out there threw the ball?
Yeah, they did throw the ball well. We do have some power arms. We do have some guys that can run it up there pretty good. And I think Clark Schmidt had a few more walks than he probably thought he was going to have. On the opening night, I think we had 11 walks maybe on the weekend or so. And but yeah, all in all, our kids threw strikes. They worked fast. A couple of our kids, flashed some arm strength, and some low to mid 90s were thrown in there, and so it was good to see. It was good to see Tyler Johnson, Clark Schmidt, Taylor Widener, Braden Webb. All those guys threw the ball well, and our relief guys came in the game, especially in a tight spot on Sunday, and did well.
Coach, for whatever reason, it seems to spark a team when you get 2-out hits, and it seems like your hitters looked like they were coming up there, especially with runners on, with a plan, looking for. Are you satisfied the way your hitters are handling each at bat?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. That's one thing that we do have this year is some experienced guys, and we have some junior college kids that have played a lot of baseball, and I'm talking about Johnny Jones and Dom Thompson-Williams, and guys like that have. We're counting on to do big things for us, and they did. They used the whole field. They had a great 2-strike approach. They walked more than we struck out. As a team, we did that. We we try to take pride in that. Let's walk as a team. Let's walk more. We really strike out. And if you do that, boy, you're a tough team to pitch to. And for the most part, we had great plate approaches 1 through 9 in our order. And I think it started with, Dom, and it started with Johnny Jones with the weekends that they had.
Wasn't that one of the things when Ray hired you as an assistant coach and you came from North Carolina to be the hitting coach? And wasn't that always one of the things that you taught, patience at the plate and getting deep in counts and nothing wrong with drawing that walk?
Well, yes. And I think that's one of the reasons. You'll have to ask Ray, but I think that was one of the reasons probably why he hired me is I just want I want the pitchers to throw the ball. I want our hitters to chase pitches in the strike zone. I don't want them to. There's something to be said about being aggressive, but you can't mistake aggressiveness with stupidity either, and chase pitches that you can't hit. And if our hitters, as a group and as a core group, swing at pitches that are in the strike zone, we have a chance to do some damage because we have some athletic kids and we have some strong kids. But if they continually and consistently chase pitches out of the strike zone, our strikeouts will go extremely high, and we'll struggle knocking some guys in. And so yeah, I want them to have a great plate approach. I want them to use the whole field with 2 strikes. I want them to understand what the value of a walk is, and if we can do that 1 through 9, I think we have a chance to be a really good offensive team.
Talking with Chad Holbrook, USC baseball coach. John Jones, not a bad way to start his USC career. 9 RBIs over the weekend, a pile of hits. Did you sense that he was going to be that kind of hitter? I know it's early, obviously, but when you signed him, did he show you that kind of hitting ability?
Well, that was his MO. He was a really, really gifted hitter, strong switch hitter that's equally good from both sides of the plate, and that's what we've seen. He was a little bit banged up in the fall with the back issue, but he rested, got great rest and therapy over the winter break, and he came back in January, and he's just been a different guy, even in the practices and in the workouts, and obviously he carried it into the games this weekend. He's certainly a threat in the middle of our lineup. One, because he has experience, has a lot of maturity, he's got some strength, he knows how to hit, he's hit his whole life, and he's very, very confident when he gets in the batter's box.
All right. It's been raining all day, and what's it look like baseball-wise? You got games scheduled for tomorrow and Wednesday afternoon.
Well, I think we're going to play. I feel good about the game getting in tomorrow. I think it's going to get out of here tomorrow, and I think it's supposed to come in late tomorrow evening. So hopefully we'll get 9 good innings in tomorrow against Appalachian State. Now, Wednesday's forecast doesn't look so great, and the reason I say that because it looks like there's a chance of severe weather.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll monitor that situation tomorrow, and obviously I'll lean on Coach Tanner and our administration in regards to that. But as far as tomorrow is concerned, I think we'll be able to play baseball, and we look forward to getting on the field tomorrow at 4:00.
Now, if you leave it up to Ray, you're playing.
Well, yeah, but now he's the AD, and when you throw the word severe in there, and you put student athletes possibly in harm's way or fans in harm's way, and in regards to severe weather, we have to do the smart thing in regards to that, but who knows? Maybe it'll it's looked like there's no way you could play, and around here we some way get our games in.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll find a way to get our 2 midweek games in this week, and before welcoming Penn State over the weekend.
And who would you start tomorrow?
We're going to start Adam Hill, a freshman. That's he's in the conversation to be one of our weekend starters. When we had to pick before opening day, and he's thrown that well. And I kind of look at it right now as we sit here right now. As we got kind of 4 weekend starters, and obviously we couldn't start 4 guys this weekend, but he was every bit as deserving as the other 3 guys. So we'll give him the ball tomorrow and see how he responds in his first game as a Gamecock. And kid's got a bright future here. He's very talented, very projectable, got a high ceiling, and he turned down a lot of money to come to school here. So I think our fans are in for a treat watching him pitch.
All right, real quick, I got about 15 seconds. Who would you start Wednesday?
Well, it depends on who we use in the bullpen tomorrow.
Okay.
I don't know that yet. Let's just try to get through tomorrow's game, and we'll decide who Wednesday's starter will be after the Appalachian State game tomorrow.
All right, sir. Coach, thank you very much. Good luck this week, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks again to Chad Holbrook for being with us here tonight on Sports Talk. We will, of course, have him on as much as possible, along with Monty Lee from Clemson and various coaches from the two programs. Clemson also had a good weekend in baseball, going 2-1 in their season opening series against Maine. They don't play again until they face James Madison this weekend, so we'll get Monty later in the week. We might have a little bit from him for you tonight on the show, depending on time from his press conference after yesterday's win. Let's go ahead and get into recruiting because we've got a lot and don't want to try and squeeze it into the normal tight segment. So we'll take this little expanded segment to give us more time to give you recruiting, because I think that's the least that we can do for you here on Sports Talk, because we do it all for you. We don't do it for ourselves. We do it all for you, our loyal listeners. And we begin with Clemson's commitment today. LeAnthony Williams Jr., 6 feet 180, Roswell, Georgia. He picked the Tigers over Georgia, Notre Dame, Tennessee, and Florida. 8th commitment for the class. And he was at Clemson's junior day in late January. That's when it started feeling like the right place for him. He said he started to narrow down the schools, figure out who was going to give him the most attention. That's when it came to Clemson for him. And he said Clemson was the place I wanted to be, felt like home. Former teammate Trey Lamar already there. He likes Dabo Swinney, and he likes secondary coach Mike Reed. First defensive back commitment for the class for Clemson. Tigers are expected to take at least 3 corners in the class. One of USC's recent offers went to defensive lineman Tier Tart Spencer, 6'4", 295, Philadelphia native who attends ASA College in Brooklyn. He was a basketball player most of his youth. He's played just 3 seasons of football, including just 6 games last season, but apparently his film impressed USC. He said they liked his explosiveness off the ball. He's more of a pass rusher, and he's been getting down to USC to check it out. Had no offers coming out of high school. Now he's got USC, Alabama, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Temple. Now, in those 6 games last season, he had 12 tackles, 7.5 for loss, and 5 sacks. Linebacker Brooks of Richmond, Virginia, 6'2", 220. He's a hotly recruited linebacker. He was at USC's junior day earlier this month, and the Gamecocks high up on his list now. Some of his other offers are Notre Dame, Duke, Virginia Tech, East Carolina, Maryland, Michigan, North Carolina, NC State, Vanderbilt, Virginia, and Wake Forest. Clemson is among the other schools showing some interest but not offering yet. He's also been to Duke for a junior day and Georgia this past weekend. And he doesn't have any sort of a list of favorites, a 1 through 10 or anything like that. USC is definitely near the top of his list. And he says a great opportunity to play football there. He said they like how physical he is and how he is a hard hitter, nonstop, and a motor that keeps on running. And they see him as a middle linebacker, a Mike or a Will type linebacker, he said. He wants to make his decision before next season. He remains interested in anyone who offers him a scholarship. Coleman Hutzler is recruiting him for USC, and he plans a return visit to USC for a practice or a spring game. 117 tackles, 18 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks last season. Offensive lineman Eric Douglas of Charlotte appears to be moving closer on a decision, and it's going to be before the spring games starting to be played. He had thought about waiting until the spring game of his choice and going to that spring game and letting that be his sign of a commitment. He's not going to wait that long now. He went to Florida this past Saturday. Last Wednesday, he went to North Carolina and was offered. And both those schools, he said, really want him badly. He is going to NC State this Saturday, Duke on March 11th. He also has USC, Clemson, and Cal on his short list. He talked with USC recruiter Sean Elliott Saturday night and is going to call Will Muschamp this week. He last heard from Clemson about 2 weeks ago. He said he'll probably visit USC, North Carolina, and NC State before finalizing his decision. But he says he's pretty much got his decision in mind. He says he's starting to get the feeling about where he wants to go, the place that I actually love. I don't know yet, but I have a feel for where I want to go. And he wants to major in journalism in college. All right. We've got some more notes. Just couldn't squeeze it all in. Some more notes. We'll give those to you after the break. All right, a few more notes recruiting-wise on this Monday night, coming off a weekend where there is no let-up in recruiting, as you well know. Wando receiver Ortre Smith went to Georgia Saturday for a junior day. He's also been to Clemson and USC for junior days. Defensive back Trajan Bandy of Miami, who has Clemson and USC offers, committed to Oklahoma Sunday. Running back Adarius Lemons of Clearwater, Florida, has USC in his current top four, along with North Carolina, Ohio State, and Auburn. Running back Javon Leake of Greensboro visited USC Saturday, and defensive end Trey Lawson of North Augusta visited USC Saturday. Also visiting USC Saturday, 2018 athlete Darion Kendrick of South Point. 2018 quarterback Cade Fortin, Sewanee, Georgia, visited USC Sunday. He was at North Carolina Saturday. Defensive end Logan Rudolph of Northwestern visited Florida Saturday. Defensive end Brad Johnson of Pendleton visited Wake Forest on Saturday. He was at Georgia Tech Thursday. Defensive lineman M.J. Webb, Madison, Georgia, told the Auburn Rivals website after spending junior day there Saturday that Auburn and USC are his top two schools right now. He's also considering Georgia. Wren quarterback Jay Urich was offered by Coastal Carolina. That might be Urich. Jay Urich. Clemson and USC target linebacker Justin Foster, Shelby, North Carolina, offered by Kentucky. Athlete Tansy Richardson of South Aiken was offered today by Southern Miss. Over the weekend, he was offered by NC State. Those are his first two offers. Receiver J.J. Robinson of Fort Pierce, Florida, has his list down to Clemson, Florida, Ohio State, and Oklahoma, and is planning to commit soon. This is what he was saying yesterday after one of those recruiting camps. And defensive end Michael McDaniel of Loganville, Georgia, visited Mississippi State officially over the weekend. He said it was really well, according to his assistant coach, Kenyatta Watson. and he spent a lot of time with the coaches and said it felt good. McDaniel will take an official visit to USC this weekend. And you'd have to say that he's on a commitment watch for the Gamecocks because he's been favoring them for a long, long time. And now that he has taken the SAT or ACT, he's able to take his official visits. But, of course, they have to wait and see what score he gets and if it's good enough along with his GPA to get him into school. But he is going to take his official visit to USC this coming weekend, something to keep an eye on for the 2016 class still for USC, defensive end Michael McDaniel. There you go with recruiting for now. We can continue to update you, of course, on our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter. Use the hashtag STRecruiting to take you to all our news notes, news stories and notes and everything else that we put out there about recruiting. All right, top of the hour break is coming up. Brad Brownell, Frank Martin in the next hour. We can also pause and take some of your phone calls as well in our next hour. We'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
All right, coming up, comments from USC basketball coach Frank Martin. If you want to join us, 800-956-7266 is the number. Basketball tonight, USC women just getting underway, playing in Alabama, and South Carolina State playing tonight. The Bulldogs playing at Howard, and that's an 8 o'clock tip-off, according to my notes here. Of course, that could be wrong. But they are playing tonight, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. And Miami and Virginia underway down south. Miami up early 8-5 there. So we are pretty quiet from an in-state to basketball standpoint tonight. And tomorrow night, Clemson at Georgia Tech. Big game for Clemson, obviously. With Georgia Tech winning its last two, this one doesn't look as easy as it did about a week ago. They are coming off a win, Georgia Tech is, at Florida State, and then a win at home, a last-second win over Notre Dame. If you saw that game or the highlights on Saturday, if I remember correctly, they got a last-second shot to win that game. So they're not only playing for some postseason life, they're playing for their coach's job. I fully believe that. I think now that we're getting towards the end of the season, and Georgia Tech has – they're nowhere near where they once were under Bobby Crimmins, and the fans they want to get back there. And Brian Gregory is completing his 5th season. He's 13 games under 500 overall at Georgia Tech, and he is 36 games under 500 in ACC play.
Well, one of the spark plugs that really could have turned this team around is now one of the stalwarts in Maryland, with Robert Carter Jr., a guy that Frank Martin also recruited when he was deciding to transfer from Georgia Tech. We were talking about a guy about 6'9", 6'10", could shoot from outside, shoot the three, rebound. Boy, if they had him, they might be in the thick of it.
He did get them to the NCAA tournament in did he? Was he the coach in 2010, the last time they went? 5th season? 2010, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. No, I guess he wasn't the coach then. I guess this is for when he was at Dayton. He took Dayton to the NCAA tournament before he came to Georgia Tech. So it's been a while for Georgia Tech, and we'll see what Clemson is able to do. Tell you, Jerron Blossom game is just playing incredible basketball. Incredible basketball. When you go on Tobacco Road and play one of those teams, and their fans are talking about you and what a terrific player you are because they know basketball. And I was hearing some of them talking about Blossom game as he was scoring 33 points the other day, and they were duly impressed by his game and how far it has come over the years. Be right back.
We've learned to win at home, which you got to be. If you can't win at home, you can't be a good team. And to win at home, you need your fans. It's hard to beat the teams we got to play here at home if you don't have any fans in the stands.
All right, good win for South Carolina on Saturday at home against the Florida Gators, a team that gives them fits every time they play them, and for good reason. Florida is a very talented basketball program, has been for a number of years, even though they've got a new coach this year. Still a very talented club. USC got off to the great lead, lost it, and then battled them tooth and nail, ended up winning in overtime 73-69 in front of an announced crowd of 18,000, 4 in double figures. Michael Carrera leading the way, 20 and 15, along with 3 assists, 3 blocks, and 3 steals, and he played 43 minutes. What a performance. Thornwell had 17 points. Notice only had 5 points, but he did have 8 assists. The Gamecocks blocked 10 shots. I'm sorry. They turned it over 10 times. They blocked 4 shots, but had 17 assists on their 27 baskets. So they moved the ball well. And he did go with the older group here. The young guys hardly played at all. Gregory played 3 minutes. Dozier played 5. Mackey is not a young guy. Silva played 1 minute. So the decision, at least for this game, was to go with the older guys. Mm-hmm. Today, Frank Martin met with the media, as he does on Monday, to rehash and look ahead. Rehash the win over Florida. Look ahead to Wednesday's game against Tennessee.
We've learned to win at home, which you got to be. If you can't win at home, you can't be a good team. And to win at home, you need your fans. It's hard to beat the teams we got to play here at home if you don't have any fans in the stands. It's huge. I think our fan base continues to grow along with our basketball team. I think we're growing in unison. And I think, what's that, 3 straight sellouts? Is that what it's been? 3 in a row, 4 of the last 5? The building had only sold out 6 times before last year. And we have sold it out 5 times in the last, 2 years, and have a chance to sell it out again here in the next couple games, which I would hope that our fans are excited about the ride that we're all on this together. And I don't mean to kind of cut your question, but I keep hearing about our sometimes struggles on the road, and we have a winning record away from here. Anytime you have a winning record away from home, I don't consider that a struggle. It's did we lose at Missouri? Yeah, we did. But you know what? That's kind of stuff that happens in league play. It's were we happy? No, but I know this. We had a lead with 2 minutes to go. We're at Georgia, we're down 2 with 3 minutes to go. We're at Tennessee, we're down 5 with 3 minutes to go, or whatever it was. The only game that has gotten away from here is Alabama, and we could have played that game at a middle school and we would have gotten blasted. It's just just we weren't good that day. But it's big part. You know, we have a fan base that's been obvious to me since I got here that really wants basketball to be good again. They're really trying from day one. They were really trying to reinvest into basketball. And I think it's what happens. You know, you can sit there and say, well, what came first, the chicken or the egg? You know, do you need your fans or your players? You got to grow together. You got to grow together. And it's no surprise that as our fan base has gotten more enthused, more energized, and has filled the seats, that our win totals continue to go north here at home. And you can go back to last year when you know we played Oklahoma State and Clemson here. I think one had 15, the other one had 14,000 for non-conference games in November, and you know our guys performed at a high level because they weren't used to having so many fans in the building the previous years in November. And so it's fun. It's all part of it. I hope that these last two home games we got, our fans continue to do what they're doing, because there's a reason we're kind of on a run here at home. It's because of them. They really have helped our team.
Have you ever been a part of a team or seen a team that is second place in a Power 5 conference with 20-plus wins that is outside of the AP top 25?
Probably the answer to that is no. I don't pay attention. I really don't. We haven't done anything around here in so long. People, media folks outside of this region don't pay attention to us. So how are they going to vote for us? You know, it is what it is. They haven't watched us. All they know is that our own media members in the SEC, you know, picked us to finish 7th, 8th, whatever it is. So it's not a team that they sat around and said, well, we got to go watch them play. And there's a reason why we lose at Alabama. And the rhetoric, what a bad loss. Are you kidding me? And they're in the RPI until I guess they got beat this week. And in the RPI, they're 30 or something like that before Saturday. But the opinion out there is that was a bad loss. You know, we lose at Missouri, and it's like, oh, I knew they were a fraud. They're no good. But yet, Penn State beat, I can't remember who it was, Iowa at home. Minnesota beats Maryland at home. And Texas Tech beats Oklahoma at home, and it's because those leagues are so good. You know, we haven't earned the right to be ranked, because a lot of the ranking with the media is based on prior history. I was at K-State, we're preseason number 2, 3 in the country. And by the middle of December, we stunk. We were no good. But they continued to rank us. And I knew we were not good enough to be in the top 25. But we continued to be ranked because that was the opinion that we were supposed to be good. We got to earn the right to be ranked. As we finish this year, that'll help us with rankings moving forward. I'm telling you, I don't care about preseason rankings. I don't care about rankings in January. I don't care about rankings now. It helps us in recruiting to be ranked. I've said this before because you're on the highlights every night, but we're not there yet. I would rather be ranked than not, but I don't pay attention to it.
Do you think it's your program, or do you think it's the SEC still not getting respect, or a combination?
I said that after the LSU game. They were in first, you know, and we were tied for second or whatever at the time. Or I don't remember what it was. I think they had 2 losses. We had 3 at the time. And, you know, we win, and it's the first place team versus a second place team, and neither team was ranked. And I said at the time, I kind of find that kind of weird. And I posed a question that I didn't even know the answer to, and I was told that I was right. It was the only BCS league in the country where neither one of the first 2 teams were ranked. Part of the problem for that perception is like the lack of success that we've had. You know, that dents the SEC's image. We have to do our part to improve our perception, which helps the SEC's image. But it's, I don't know the reason. I don't know. It's, you know, I can tell coaches think. I talk to coaches, I would hope that media members would kind of, especially ones that cover us, stop using some of those things that like our team's not as good, or as soon as we lose a game, well, they're phonies, they're not as good as they need to. I wish they'd stop that. That bothers me when the people that actually cover our team jump off the wagon right away rather than just kind of report the truth. Hey, man, they got beat on the road. It happens across the country. They've won 22 out of 27 games. You don't do that by mistake. They've won 9 away from home. You don't do that by mistake. Rather than that nonsense, because when our local, if the national media folks that vote don't watch our team play, then they're going to go do what most of us do, is go read so we can educate ourselves. I think I shared this with this room before. I've had a couple of national people call me and say, talk to me about your team, because obviously you guys are pretty good and I've never seen you guys play.
All right, Frank Martin, a lot of talk there about perception and how the media treats his team. And he's exactly right. We all know the habits, the voting habits of the media.
Yes.
And which teams in this world get the benefit of the doubt in various sports. South Carolina is not one of those. It gets the benefit of the doubt in college basketball.
It gets the doubt of the benefit.
Yeah. Okay, right. Look, I think basketball people know what Frank Martin has done this year at South Carolina and what he's done over the last few years. You have seen him piece by piece put his team together, and that's a good win over Florida, a 17-win Florida team coming in featuring the likes of Dorian Finney-Smith, who's still a great player, who had 18 points, and other highly recruited players that were in that program. Devin Robinson had 17 points. I didn't get to see the game because I was traveling to Raleigh. It sounded like a heck of a ball game and a terrific win. And he's right. We are all quick to become negative when a team loses, especially a game that you don't think they should. You have to also consider the fact that they are on the road and things happen. Funny things happen on the road in college basketball, everywhere, every league, every day. Just like Clemson losing at NC State on Saturday. On paper, you would not have thought that Clemson would lose that game. But NC State played inspired basketball. Mm-hmm. They had 14,000 there, and they were They were loud, and they were, they give scholarships, and they scout, and they coach, and they've got good players, and they put it together against Clemson. And except for Blossom game, they pretty much shut down the Tigers. I know that Sidi Jite had a double-digit scoring game. He scored a couple of baskets late to get him into double digits, and he played hard, and he had an impact on the game there for a while. But the rest of the Tigers offensively were Johnny-come-latelys or no-shows. They just didn't get any help for Blossom game, who was fantastic. I mean, he scored from every angle. He scored outside. He scored inside. He scored on stick backs. But Clemson's bigs were AOL and not AOL. They were AWL. They were probably AWL at home on AOL. They just didn't box out. And they got pushed around by bigger. They give NC State credit. They're a big basketball team now. I mean, Barber is listed at 6'3", and Rowan is 6'5", 6'6", and then
Cat Barber's arms are longer than the average person who's 6'3".
Yeah, he's extremely quick. I see why they call him Cat. I mean, but Clemson did a good job on him. He took him out. But going back to Frank Martin and what he is saying, his team doesn't get that benefit of the doubt when it loses a game, both in terms of the pollsters and the media. And, it is a shame. I'm not blaming anyone, but I guess it's just the times that we're in financially. The local media does not cover South Carolina men's basketball on the road every game. Some media will get to some games that are reachable within a reasonable drive, but many of those games, go uncovered by the Columbia media, and really in the Columbia paper sometimes doesn't get high attention in terms of where it's placed in the paper.
And also, you got to remember that South Carolina and Frank Martin's attitude, you play down and dirty defense, so they win ugly. If you don't like that kind of basketball, sorry.
No, I just think the fans should be happy, and everybody who follows it should be happy that they're just winning. right, back we are. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Brad Brownell coming up for you in just a moment. Hey, whether you are part of Gamecock Nation or you bleed Clemson orange, everyone can agree on Founders Federal Credit Union with a convenient location at the Russell House on USC's campus and a new location on Highway 93 in Clemson coming soon. Founders is a sure fan favorite. Visit RelaxJoinFounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA. Relax on and off the field with Founders Federal Credit Union.
Yeah, we'll piggyback on what you were talking about when we talk about perception. Perception also means, as Frank Martin said, when he was at K-State, they were ranked, and we knew we were no good, but we were ranked because, that's what the media thought we were going to be. Mm-hmm. The other is the so-called, what we would say if South Carolina and Clemson says something, oh, that's just an excuse. Well, then they'll do that for the good teams. For instance, what have we been hearing all year? Yes, they've had a significant injury, but they're a little shorthanded today. Duke, shorthanded. Boo-hoo. Whose fault is that? I mean, you're at Duke. My goodness, you just recruit all Americans and you got caught shorthanded. Shame on you, not boo-hoo. The other is
how about just flat out boo?
And then Kentucky the other night, the guy slams the ball down. Now, if that's South Carolina and Clemson, what a dumb play. You got to know the rules again. And then Kentucky, he really mean to do that. He got caught. They should just turn their heads on. What? Why? But it's the same action. But if it's different teams, one is a dumb play, the other excuse is made for them. So that's another thing about these so-called teams of privilege. Yeah, they earn the right, but you don't earn the right to just mold a message into what you want to. I call it as I see it. Mm-hmm. You're shorthanded, you're Duke. That's no excuse. You shouldn't be shorthanded at Duke, even if you have a one significant injury. If you're Kentucky, you make a dumb mistake, it's a dumb mistake. Don't try to say the officials shouldn't have called it.
All right, now, speaking of a team like South Carolina, which is Clemson, which hardly ever gets a break from the media. Oh, let me go back to what I was saying, one final thing to Brad Brownell. And I know the landscape of things has changed over the years. I mean, back when South Carolina was a really good team and in the ACC, it was very easy to cover all basketball games. I mean, your longest trip was to Maryland, and you could drive that in a couple of days, day and a half, whatever the case may be, there and back. So it wasn't a difficult thing to do. You hopped in the car, you went to Charlottesville, you went on Tobacco Road, you went to Clemson, or if you were covering Clemson, you went to where you had to go. Not hard at all. I get now that the footprint of the SEC is so big and the traveling is so far for a team like South Carolina when it comes to basketball. I'm not pointing the finger at anybody in the media and saying you're not doing your job, because we're not at all the games either. We get to the games we can get to, but we're covering Clemson and South Carolina, and we try to get to as many games as we can. And I think for Frank Martin, coming from a place like Kansas State, in a state like Kansas, where basketball is strongly followed by the fan base and by the media, to go on the road to Missouri or to go to Texas A&M or to go to Mississippi State and not have any familiar faces there in the media, especially when you have a nationally ranked team or a team that is right on the bubble of making being nationally ranked or being in the NCAA tournament. Now, they're not on the bubbles as a tournament's concerned. Right now, they're firmly in by the experts. But it's a little bit of a slap in the face for his program. You'd never see that for Gamecock football. Now, I know that the difference is it's one game a week versus, in some cases, a couple of games a week. But, the media in our state will do whatever it takes to cover Clemson and South Carolina football, no matter what the cost, no matter what the price, no matter what the physical toll it takes to get it done. And more than just one person, from a staff wants to be there, is going to be there. And it doesn't matter if it's Tallahassee or Syracuse or Texas A&M, but that's football. And what he's getting at, and I get it, both in terms of talk media, sports talk shows, television, and newspaper, the whole deal, as it comes to his program, he wants that same conviction. He wants that same attention. And he believes they deserve it with what they've done this year. Now, do it a couple of 3 years in a row, and maybe it will happen. I mean, really, and I'm not picking on them because they've got their financial guidelines and budgets like everybody else does. But I mean, you would think that in Columbia, the state newspaper would cover every South Carolina men's basketball game, home and away, that they would figure out a way to get one of their guys to Missouri, to Texas A&M, wherever they go, that they would have somebody there because they are the state paper. They are the newspaper of Columbia covering the Gamecocks. But it's just, again, you make decisions based on what you think is important, what you can afford, and what in the case of a newspaper, what your readership, what your readership wants. Do Gamecock fans, now you got a team that's been nationally ranked, you got a team that's well over 20 wins, you got a team that's pretty much a lock for the NCAA tournament, but are the fans living and dying with men's basketball?
Some are, some aren't.
Well, that's not good enough. I mean, it's got to be more than some are, some aren't. It's got to be mass. I hate to keep. Look. SEC football is
king.
Is the bench. Okay,
yes.
All right.
Yes.
In my world, in my puny little what's left of my brain, ACC basketball is the benchmark because you go to games on Tobacco Road, and I love doing it. And they know their team, their fans know their team, they know the other team, they know the officials, and they know the game. They know when a bad call has been made or when a call should have been made or whatever the case may be. And they know the officials by name, and they're just not standing up and booing, just because the guy next to them is standing up and booing. They know what they're doing.
And they they know when to yell to try to get a call.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they're passionate about basketball. They appreciate good basketball, and they live and die. I don't think here in our state, obviously, we don't live and die with basketball. And that's what Frank is having, I think, a hard time understanding. Media-wise and fan-wise, living and dying with college basketball hasn't happened in our state in maybe almost forever.
Well,
I think back in the McGuire, I hate to keep going back to the McGuire days. Maybe most of our listeners weren't even alive then, but growing up in the state, you lived and died with Frank McGuire's teams. You did. That was, and fans were into it, and they wanted to know everything about them, and they were well covered. Nothing happened with those Gamecock basketball teams that was not.
They had an
entourage.
Somewhere.
They did.
Yeah,
they went to New York. The media from South Carolina was with them wherever they went, and and Martin, he wants. I don't want to say he expects, but he wants the same thing for his team, and maybe he's right. Maybe this team deserves that. Maybe this team, as well as it's played all year long, to be where they are and have what? How many losses they have right now? Is it 5?
5 losses.
5 losses. 5. We're at the end of February almost, people, and South Carolina men's basketball is sitting on 5 losses.
And people talk about the schedule. I think they have something like 6 or 7 wins against top 50 RPI teams. So it's not like they've played a chopped liver schedule, even though people want to say that.
Well, it depends on which RPI you have to look at.
I think the key point is this, though. Like good coaches, they argue this call to get the next call, meaning that, look, we see all these sellout crowds all of a sudden, the people are going to ask for you to cover it. By they're showing with their fannies in the seats.
Warren Nolan has them, his RPI has them 4-2 against top 50 teams. All right, we'll be right back. All right, time to hear from Clemson coach Brad Brownell. The Tigers go to Atlanta to take on Georgia Tech tomorrow night. He met with the media today and was asked about the play of Jerron Blossom game of late. Let's listen in.
With the game being so important, have you guys to Jerron try to take his game to an even higher level?
In some ways, yeah. I think games, everything is kind of dictated with how teams play. The NC State game certainly was a matchup game in some ways, and that Jerron had some advantages out on the perimeter driving the ball, and they had some advantages at the rim and rebounding. And, you saw that with the way they rebounded against us and hurt us a little bit inside. And obviously you saw the same thing with him having the advantage on the perimeter and making 3 threes, making a bunch of drives to the basket. So, just different games are different for him in terms of the matchup and what the other team's trying to do. Some teams are really trying to take him out. Other teams are just playing straight up, and sometimes they have a good matchup, sometimes they don't. They're going to live with the results and try to guard the other players. And that was kind of the philosophy, I think, by NC State that night. So it certainly opened up more things for him. That's why he put up 22 shots. He had a bunch of chances in space, and really pleased with the way he played offensively. I thought he was very good.
But you're probably seeing more junk defenses against him at times.
You know what? Not as much junk defenses, but sometimes he's guarded by a smaller player, a 3-man, and they'll come trap with a 5-man or a 4-man if he's around the rim. One of the things that's a little tough at times, we don't have a 5-man that shoots it very far, so they can always have a guy in there to kind of plug it up. So that's happened a little bit. They mix up whether it's a 4 or 5, but usually it's the same type of guy, and occasionally it gets switched, and Jerron's got to adjust.
Jerron says Avery's real improvement has been on defense. Did you anticipate he'd be able to play that well for you defensively?
Well, I thought he'd be a good defender. I didn't know you never know if they'll be as good as you hope they are. I think Avery's really, he's a very competitive guy, and we knew that when we had him here and watched him for a year, that his competitive spirit and his fight was at a high level, that he would compete on the defensive end. It was important to him. And I'm really pleased with the way he's played, especially on that side of the ball most of the year. He does better guarding the ball right now than off the ball. He still makes some mistakes in that area because he gets so locked into a guy or two. But he certainly is a big part of us defending well. It's his ability to guard other people and make a statement at the front of our defense.
Tomorrow's game, more about defense, more about offense in your mind?
This one's probably both. It's rebounding is critical. We're able to win the game. Neither team shot the ball well from the perimeter. Both teams kind of know each other pretty well. We both take pretty good pride in our defense and are usually in good positions. They've got big, strong, physical guys. We've got to keep them off the glass. It was pretty much a rebounding split in the game. We got some offensive rebounds. They got a few. I think that's important. I think in some ways, maybe the team that shoots better from the perimeter will have to see neither one of us really made them last time. And, I think that's part of the offensive position.
What appears to be a team that maybe has found itself a little bit.
Yeah. Well, they were playing pretty good coming into our last game. They've been in a lot of close ones, and they hadn't won a couple. And you go back and watch the tape of our game, and it was a very physical, tough game like we usually have with those guys. And then we pulled away in the last 8 minutes. They really handled Florida State. I mean, they played great. You watch the film of the Florida State game, and it was had them down 18 with 6 minutes to go. They're playing with much more confidence. When they make shots like that, they're hard to deal with. They always are an unbelievable rebounding team. They're always physical. And then, they obviously beat Notre Dame. Played really good in that game. Defensively, Notre Dame had a hard time against them. Didn't make quite as many shots early in the game and made it hard on it. Georgia Tech just moved the ball and got into some good places and put themselves in a position to get a great win. And Marcus Georges Hunt made a huge play at the end. So yeah, they're playing at a good level. I think they've won 3 out of 4, and you know, we're not surprised by it because we play Georgia Tech all the time. We know they have good players. We know that they're prepared. They scout. Their coaches have them in good positions. You know, it's like anything. It's just kind of a matter of winning some close games. You know, recently, they won a few.
Anybody else get a headache from that? My goodness. They must have had a microphone right there underneath the floor picking up those basketballs. Clemson beat Tech earlier in the year, just recently, back on the 13th, 66-52. Remember, that was the game they clamped down on Tech in the second half, held Tech to just 7 field goals in the second half. Blossom game had 17, and Roper had a nice game, had 15. And the Tigers won that game going away in the second half. They'll need to do more of the same against an improving Tech team tomorrow night in Atlanta. All right, just checking things out. South Carolina has dished out a couple of more football offers tonight. One went to defensive end DeAndre Johnson from Miami. Another went to defensive end Jake Lichtenstein from Weston, Florida. So both of those, I think Cypress Bay, Weston, Florida, I think that's down in South Florida. It's probably Travaris Robinson looking at these guys and making the offer. So USC continuing to hand out offers, trying to get some good players they think, interested in them and getting them in for visits and go from there. If you missed the first part of the show, Clemson picked up commitment number 8 today for the 2017 class. Lee Anthony Williams Jr., cornerback from Roswell, Georgia, commits to the Tigers. So they continue to piece together their 2017 class and have another good-looking class coming together. Women's basketball.
South Carolina by 10. They're just beginning the second half. It's 32-22. That game being played in Tuscaloosa. Elena Coates leading the way, 8 points, 11 rebounds. Asia Wilson, 9 points, 3 boards. Tiffany Mitchell, 8 points. Kadisha Sessions, Alabama must be taking a lot of threes. 4 points for the point guard and 7 rebounds for Kadisha Sessions.
New rankings this week, AP and coaches. USC is in neither, AP, Villanova, Kansas, Virginia, Oklahoma, Xavier, Michigan State, North Carolina, Iowa, Arizona, Maryland, and Villanova number 1 by the coaches. Baseball rankings, God, so many different baseball polls. Baseball America, the traditional one that we have followed for years, has Florida number 1, followed by Louisville, Texas A&M, Virginia, which lost to Coastal Carolina yesterday, and we'll be down at Coastal later this week for baseball at the beach. Oregon State is 5, followed by Miami, Vanderbilt, LSU, Houston, and Louisiana Lafayette. And Coastal, the only in-state team in this poll, is ranked number 19, coming off its win over Virginia. D1 baseball has Florida, Louisville, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, and Oregon State as its top 5 teams. USC, number 15 by D1 baseball, and Coastal Carolina, number 19. Perfect Game has Florida, number 1, followed by Louisville, Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, and LSU. And Coastal Carolina is ranked 20th by a Perfect Game, moving up 1 spot with their win over Virginia. Collegiate baseball has Florida 1, followed by Louisville, Vanderbilt, Miami, and Texas A&M. And they I've looked up and down this list. I hope I'm not missing anything, but they don't have Coastal Carolina or South Carolina or Clemson in their top 30. The baseball writers, Florida, Louisville, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, and Miami. And they've got South Carolina at number 20 and Coastal Carolina at number 22. That will do it. See you from Atlanta tomorrow night, covering Clemson and Georgia Tech, as well as the guys back here in Columbia. Thank you, Pro. And thank you, LB. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.